And this is faith here, so safe places to me are grace, called grace places. And the more grace there is, the more truth is told.
Yeah.
And the more truth is told, the more I'm set free. Mm-hmm. And so I got to constantly be in environments, and I don't always like them. It's uncomfortable, but I need it because I want to be a free man. And I'm constantly dealing with a lot of darkness in me.
Yeah.
And so I got to get it out in a safe place where I won't be judged. That's why people hate the church, right? Because, and I get it. I get it because it's like the church is not safe. Everybody there is playing a game to look good. And we know that we look good, but no one really is good. And so no truth is being told. And so there's just a lot of posturing. The problem with posturing is it doesn't work. It gets tiring, or in order to facilitate that posture, I need to drink a lot, or porn a lot, or make a lot of money a lot, or do whatever to deal with my posturing.
Hey guys, I'm here with Carl Sutter. What an amazing episode we're about to share today. Carl does something that all leaders are called to do. He has just shared and opened up his real, raw, vulnerable story. He shared stories of massive failure as a lead pastor of a growing church and how that actually led him here to Loveland, Colorado, to found another church that many of you know about, Foundations Church. We talk about life, leadership, and what God calls us to do to live boldly and authentically, to commit to our calling. You've got to check out this episode. Are you a faith-based father and looking for intentional ways to connect with your son in a big way? If so, you have to check out the Father-Son Hike of a Lifetime on the Camino de Santiago in Spain. June 2025, I am taking a group of faith-based fathers and their sons over to Spain for 9 days and the adventure of a lifetime. Go check it out at mattshoup.com/Spain. On that page, you'll actually see all of my upcoming Spain adventures, but make sure to check out the Father-Son Hike of a Lifetime. Carl Sutter.
Hey, great to be with you.
Good to have you out finally.
Thanks. It's fun. I'm glad to be here. This is an amazing place.
Well, thanks for making the time.
Yeah, for sure.
I joined Foundations. We officially joined. It was after you left when we officially ended up joining. But we were coming and exploring the church as you were on the way out.
Yeah.
I'd known about you, heard about you for forever, because I actually was baptized at Crossroads Church.
Oh my goodness,
in a
seriously?
Loveland High School gymnasium.
Yes.
In 2001.
Wow.
When it was there.
Yeah.
Before it went up to 57. Yeah. So you're a pastor. Are you ex-pastor? You're always a pastor. If you're a pastor. Right? So you're always a pastor. You're retired.
Retired from the pastorate, not retired from the calling. That right of life. Nobody retires from their calling.
Yeah. So you're currently not pastoring in the church in a work capacity.
Correct.
How's that transition been?
It's been good because Matt, I had a lot of people talk to me about it, about how it could be daunting for people. And so I did a lot of preparation for it. Got into some therapy a little bit, and I think they really prepared me well to step away. I mean, because when you're kind of quote unquote the man, week after week after week, you're the man. Your phone's ringing. Everybody's asking you these amazing questions, life altering questions. And to get away from that. If a person is not prepared for it, I think it could really mess with a man's purpose and value in life.
So you knew that was coming?
Yes.
Did you spend time with other pastors that it affected them in that way?
For sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, I have some friends for sure. Yep.
So you knew that was coming.
Yep.
And you got ahead of that potential issue.
For sure.
So like straight up counseling.
It's what it was.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's a good thing for men to do. So even just preemptive.
That's what it was.
How many men do counseling, let alone preemptive counseling?
Not enough
for anything. I don't think I've ever done it preemptively.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So you found like you had some good structure, good resources, and
really good. And the guy I worked with was very savvy. He's been in my world for a long time, and so he knew the right things to ask, the right things to where to probe. So it was really, really profoundly helpful for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So take me back. I, again, stepped into Crossroads 2001. They were in the gym.
Yep.
John was leading that.
Yep,
they had the vision. I believe they had the vision then for the building, or leading into like 02, 03. ended up moving, getting married. We ended up moving to Fort Collins, so then started attending Timberline. So lost a little bit of contact. When did you come into Crossroads?
So we moved here from Chicago. We moved here right after 9/11. My wife worked in the World Trade Center. She would commute from Chicago every other week. She wasn't there when the planes hit, but she managed a team of 6. 4 got out, and 2 of her team never did. Very tragic, very sad. It affected her. So much so that I think the city, we live right in the heart of the metro area of Chicago, right in the city, and I think she wanted to get out. So we moved to Loveland. She loved Colorado. We moved here, and then we started attending Crossroads back then.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then soon we started attending. It wasn't that long that Crossroads brought me on staff.
So leading up to that in Chicago, were you professionally a pastor already? Were you in other fields or vocations?
So, yeah, I was a pastor of a inner city church in Chicago. Did that for 10 years, and it was booming. Right, it was booming. It's a very dynamic church because it was a dynamic community. It was very, very, very diverse. The local high school there had 66 different languages spoken from their students. Right,
yeah,
very diverse. I thought, Matt, that I would be in this church for the rest of my life, because it was the largest, in my denomination, it was the largest urban church like in the country. It was really growing. And urban churches didn't grow. I mean, it was hard because it's really diverse and a lot of complications to it. And at the pinnacle of my leadership there at the church, I messed up and failed. And so I left the church because I had to leave the church. And so I began the daunting process at age 42 of how to reinvent myself. Ostracized from my community. The church rejected me. Friends rejected me. My denomination rejected me, right? There was no, here we're in an organization that talks about redemption and all that. And for the leader, there was not much.
Redemption until you need it. And then it wasn't there?
And then it wasn't there.
Wow,
right.
Man.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I had to reinvent myself. So I did some stuff. And I was at the time in 9/11 working in the business world, doing some consulting with a small firm.
Okay. So leaving the church, having that failure.
Yep.
You're out.
Yep.
They put you out.
Yep.
They make that decision.
Yep.
A little bit of business and then off to Colorado.
That's right.
Did Loveland pop up for any reason in particular? You said your wife loved Colorado. Was there something? Have you been here before Loveland?
She had been, and she loved Loveland. She's originally from Minnesota, and so she saw all these little lakes around here and which really aren't lakes, man. I found out they're not really lakes here.
No. Lake Loveland. Lake Loveland, you could. That's a lake.
It might pass, yeah. But so she loved the 300 Days of Sunshine, and she loved the lakes that reminded her of Minnesota. And the size, I think, was something that she was driving this decision where we would live. And because I was traveling a little bit with work, so I could do virtually anything. And so we moved here.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So where in Minnesota is she from? My wife's got some family there.
She's from the Twin Cities.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Emily's dad grew up with grandma and grandpa on a little farm in Sibley, Iowa, north part of Iowa, just south of Worthington, Minnesota, right across the border.
I know, right across the border. Yeah, it's cold up there.
Mm-hmm. There's no coffee shops in Sibley. they're far away. I need my coffee when I come into a place. Yeah, so you come out here, start attending, get called onto staff, and then how's that journey get you to eventually foundations and founding foundations?
I was traveling, going to Crossroads on the weekend, really liked it. And John was really good to me. John hired me because I was doing some stuff with men. Yep. And John hired me, and there was redemption there because my failure in Chicago led to a divorce. And once I got divorced in a Christian community, that was really hard. And John showed a lot of grace to me. My fall, which was probably the darkest and most miserable time of my life, in the rearview mirror right now, is probably the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
And without John's grace and that church really embracing me, that would have never happened.
So they showed you the love forgiveness gave you that space for redemption.
Absolutely.
That Jesus calls to be there.
That's right.
That just wasn't there.
Wasn't
where
there.
you were. Do you feel like in that space back in Chicago when something like that happens, you're in a position of leadership. There's an expectation. There's more eyes on you. There's higher expectation.
Yeah.
That is there ever when a pastor fails in whatever capacity, is there ever redemption initially? Do you see that a lot? Like, is there a lot of the hey, you're out? Because I'll read. I'm following a couple right now, not to get into too many names or make a spotlight of that, but I just feel like they're out. Is it good to step away and have the space, but not necessarily to be thrown out?
I think it's great. To step out and ask the questions that maybe you weren't even asking of yourself. And because my leadership back in Chicago, people would say was strong, but in retrospect, it was pseudo leadership. It was not led from really a place of authenticity. And I didn't even know it, really. I look at my fall really as a gift from God.
Yeah.
Because my friend told me when I was really down and out, we went to a bar in Chicago, we were eating hamburgers, and he said, "What happened to you?" And I was like, I remember like tears coming down my eyes. I told him the whole story, and he said, "Isn't the grace of God wonderful?" Which made me want to fly across the table and punch him. I go, "I lost everything. Why would you say that?" He goes, and this is the words he said to me: "When your life is being built on a weak foundation, the best thing God can do is blow it up."
He blew it up.
He blew it up.
He gave you that space to make whatever that decision was. You made it. It's blown up.
To go back and do things from an authentic place. Yeah.
So when you say pseudo leadership, and you mentioned authenticity and lack of it there, you're just not being you.
Right.
What were you leaning into that wasn't you? So what's an example of that? So if somebody's in that space, we have a lot of faith-based male business owners, business leaders here. They're not being authentic. Like, give an example of where you weren't.
Well,
were you leading
I think
from a position of just, I'm the boss, I'm in charge?
I was raised in a family. I'm the youngest of three boys, right? A lot of alcohol. My brothers were 4 and 8 years older than me, so we weren't really close because of the age difference. And they were angry. I think they got it from my dad, who was very angry. Yeah. Anger was a force in my family. Yeah. So being the youngest, it would trickle down, right? And so I learned real quickly I could read a room real fast. Yeah. Not because I'm talented. That was a survival skill. I needed to walk into my house and find out who,
stay alive.
Yeah, who was angry here and stay away from them, right? Mm-hmm. And then if I couldn't stay away, learned how to be what they wanted me to be. Mm-hmm. That too is not a bad thing. Like I see your shirt says pour into people. That's a really good thing, right? If you're pouring into people from an authentic place. Yeah. So I learned what I call my shadow side of life, my shadow side of leadership. I could read a room real fast. I could connect with people real fast. And here was my shadow mission. I will deny truth to be what people want me to be.
There it is. Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's how I pastored. And I was becoming everything, so to speak, what people wanted me to, and they loved it. So
because you gave them what they wanted.
Yes.
You gave them what they needed.
Absolutely.
And called for.
And that's the danger of the shadow mission, because the shadow mission works.
Well.
Yes.
You built a huge freaking church.
Yes.
Right? You impacted the community.
Yes.
66 demographics united.
I was getting accolades for unhealthy leadership.
Like, good job.
Yes, way to go.
Yes.
So everybody was winning but me.
Yeah. And God knew it.
Did
he give you clues? Were there breadcrumbs or pokings or promptings, whatever you would refer to that as, or when that failure happened? Did you even know that you were walking into that, or was it all in retrospect and hindsight once the blow up happened?
I knew a little bit of it, not to the degree, but here's the other problem. Like, I knew a little bit. I knew I was the quintessential people pleaser, right? I knew that. The problem was when you're in a business, so to speak, and it's growing and moving. Okay, I got that problem, but let's just keep moving, right? So the growth of the church actually was a contributor to my lack of taking time to hit the pause button and say, Carl, take a closer look at some of the unhappiness in your life.
Do you need a new roof or new paint job on your home or business and live in Northern Colorado? If so, check out one of our sponsors, M&E Painting and Roofing. We've been around for 20 years here in the community, and full disclosure, I am the M in M&E. Check them out at mdepainting.com. Are you a business owner who is struggling to understand and navigate the world of digital media? If so, check out one of our sponsors, Imprint Digital. They are the go-to source for everything digital related to your business. Not only are they a sponsor, but they also take care of all of our company's website. They produce this podcast, and I highly recommend them. Check them out at imprint-digital.com. Yeah, but all stemming from, you said the anger was trickling, maybe a little more than a trickle.
Yes, at times, for sure.
Pouring all over the place.
Yes.
So you're just learning where, I have similar stories and upbringing is there's landmines here, and sometimes you know where they are. Yeah. So you don't step on those. You do what you need to do. And then you step on some that you don't know are there. Did you ever have those where it's
absolutely.
Like, oh, crap, I just stepped on one?
Absolutely.
So there's that. So you grow up in a war zone where you're trying to find out where the landmines are.
What's
so you're
safe
you're always on alert.
You got it.
Or hyper vigilant.
You got it. You've been there.
And then you either power up or power down. So I've gone through tons of therapy. I wouldn't say proactive, maybe proactively call it coaching, but in the therapy standpoint, it's been on the back end or after side of an event or just a failing, right? You're just like, this isn't working.
Right.
But I've learned that power up, power down.
Yeah.
So you end up being power up in some regards, but then people pleasing, chameleoning.
Yes. Good word.
While still leading strongly.
Yes.
Dang. So that's something, huh?
That's
so you
quite
lead
a cocktail.
And grow
yes.
and build things, but you're just missing what God's got for you, your true self.
Absolutely.
So then you blow it up, it blows up, and your buddy's like, "Oh, that's so great." Screw you, I'm going to hit you with a hamburger. Right? Let's stick this hamburger somewhere across the table.
Exactly.
And then here you are in Colorado, man.
Yeah,
crazy. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah,
There's,
for sure.
I don't meet, like I said, too many men that go to counseling, do it preemptively, or just openly share that. Yeah. You're a public figure. You're like, dude, yeah, I screwed up.
Yeah,
just admit it and own it. Well, everybody should do that.
Well. Yeah, and I know why we don't, right? Because the world is not a safe place. And in today's culture, with, in today's culture where everything gets publicized quickly, right? I understand why we live with a lot of secrets.
Yes.
And I think we have to be aware of that because secrets can really be, what ends up to be a molehill becomes a mountain down the road, and it can crush us.
Yeah. So you started and were working with men. Did you always have a heart to serve men? Did that flow out of your story? Was there a certain moment in your journey as pastor, leader, where you really wanted to dedicate yourself to men? Because I know, Rocky was here on the show right at the end of last year. We talked about the house and your heart for those guys. But like, when did that become a calling within your calling?
So when I had my crash, right, then I reactively went to get therapy, right? And my fall, which is the worst you could have when you're in leadership in a Christian organization, was a moral failure, right? And so it was a moral failure. So some people said, he needs this to be fixed. So I went to this guy, this therapist, and I went on my own, and I was telling him my problems, and so what I did is I ended up connecting with the woman emotionally, very strongly, and we did cross some lines. Not ultimately, but it was wrong no matter what it was. We crossed lines, and some people were saying, "Well, Carl, maybe you should look into. You got a lust problem, you got this problem," and I'm thinking like none of that landed with me. So I'm with this therapist, and I told him the whole thing, and he said, "You know what your problem is?" I said, "Well, that's why I'm here." He says, You're not really a man. You're reacting to everything in life and not stepping into your power." That, at the age of 42, landed with me. And so he
So
said,
it wasn't this lustful
No.
look at her. It wasn't like, look at that beautiful female. It was not engaging, understanding the power you have as a man in how God had designed you.
exactly. And looking for power in other ways, right?
But you had it. So I'm just curious. I love this space, and I'm aligning this with stories and engagements with therapy and conversations I've had. But you had that power in terms of position, authority as pastor.
Yeah.
Did you realize that? So looking back, did you realize that consciously at the time?
A little bit. I had what I looking back, I called pseudo power, and I was deriving a lot of meaning from that and purpose from that, but it was all derived from the outside. Accolades coming my way. Look at your church; it's growing, it's big. People patting me on the back.
Numbers, stats, worldly recognition, best of, top, whatever.
Look at you! You could write my book. Okay. That's good.
Yeah, no, I okay. Yeah,
but
love that.
I knew even then the depth of it could be questioned, but I'm not happy. I'm not happy doing this. I'm doing it all for other people to be happy. But Carl is not happy.
Yeah, pleasing everybody else, putting yourself last.
Yes.
Would you say, so now I'm just thinking of men, because I know men currently right now that I'm coaching, just having conversations with, and they're like, yeah, I started having this conversation, right? I reconnected with so-and-so from such and such, and look what she said. I'm like, you shouldn't be sending that stuff.
Yes.
You're freaking married. You're married.
Yes.
Not appropriate. And it can start just right with that. So like that first, going back to that first whatever conversation engagement, you make an emotional connection, right? Would you say some of that was just a lack of feeling seen, recognized, loved, appreciated as well? Was that, did that hit?
Matt,
So
totally.
there's that too? Okay.
Totally.
And men have that and just
Yes.
gotta realize that.
When I'd walk away from that time with her, we'd just be at maybe a coffee shop. It was like intoxicating, right? For once in my life, I'm feeling like Superman.
Yeah.
Seen, heard, valued.
So for men, every man has their father story, right? And there's certain things that a father, like how God designs a man to be a father to a son in the eyes of God, right? Being children of God, not in a worldly sense of what worldly men think that is, right?
Right.
There's a responsibility and a contribution that a male gives to their son. How do you feel that was received? Was that there? You said there's a lot of anger from dad.
Yes.
Do you feel like you caught on? You look at like John Eldridge and Wild at Heart.
Yeah.
Just those things, the godly tenets of manhood.
Right.
Did you feel like some of those were passed on? Well, not passed on. There was some lack.
There was a whole lack of that.
Yeah.
I had this is big because I do a lot of men's work. I had a granddad, my father, and two older brothers. All these men, older, had the opportunity to mentor me into manhood. And I used to say like they failed. They didn't fail. Ultimately, they did, but it's because they didn't know it either. They were passing on wounded masculinity to me.
Yeah, and you can't be the example if you don't know nor have had the example.
Exactly.
And you think back then, because you're how old now?
Oh, Matt.
Because I'm born in the 80s, right?
I just turned 70. Just
70.
the other day, yeah.
So you're born in the 50s. But even like with me being born in the 80s and you look one generation up, like now the access that any man has to open up the internet and go research about all this stuff and learn about all this stuff and listen to a podcast like just what you just talked about. Every man should listen. Just that. It's
powerful.
That's 15 minutes. And that stuff's everywhere.
Yeah.
My dad didn't have that. Your dad, like those
Had
generations
no access to
didn't have
That's
that.
right.
Yeah. But it's still, but some men decided to make that change at some point. Because I think I looked back at some of my family history. It was really, really interesting because I'm sitting here when my son's born. I go, this is what the Shoup name means moving forward. It's meant this. Now it's going to mean this. And you hear the one. Who's that? Who's why am I spacing? Ed Milet.
Yes, Milet.
Says, I'm going to be the one. He talks about the power of one more activity, or you talked about that too. But just, man, if a man's listening to this and they want to end that, change the family tree, it changes with you or it doesn't change.
It doesn't
Realize
change.
that and then change it. And it's hard. And it's just easier to keep the tree the way it is.
That's right.
And sometimes that poisonous tree tastes really good because it's comfortable and it's easy and it feels good. And you're just in this pile of shit. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah.
But like you're just in it and it just feels great.
Yeah.
And then you step out and you just get sucked back in.
Right back in.
Yeah. But you step out just enough and you're like, huh, there's another world out here.
Yeah,
and then you let somebody pull you out. Like that's been my story.
Yeah.
Because at first I'm like, I just want to sit here. And then you start throwing the crap at people. Like I'd throw the crap at Christians. Some of them were trying to pull me out. Some of them were judging me and dunking my head down in the shit I was already in. And that's why I didn't want to have anything to do with faith or God or Jesus forever.
Right.
Until a wild moment, unexpected moment happened. But yeah, there's tons of stuff for men. Yeah. Dude, thanks for sharing.
Yeah. Well, someone said to me a long time ago, and it just stopped me dead in my tracks. What we don't transform, we transmit. Right? So I got 2 sons. There's lots of things in my life I don't want to transmit to them. So I got to keep doing the inner work to transform it. So
how great soundbite. How do you do that? True soundbite. What are the steps to do that? So if a guy's listening to this, man, I don't want to transmit anger and I'm angry. How do they transform? What were some of the things you did?
Yeah. Well, I think safe places are rare to find. They're very rare. So I think, but they are more, I think, readable. They're more available now than they used to be. So I found a community of men that was safe, that I could say anything I wondered about myself, as dark as darkness gets. And their response to me is, you know what, Carl, we're going to love you just the way you are. So I think it starts with finding a safe place.
Yeah.
And here's what I find. Safe place promotes and encourages truth. And this is faith here. So safe places to me are grace, called grace places. And the more grace there is, the more truth is told.
Yeah.
And the more truth is told, the more I'm set free. Mm-hmm. And so I got to constantly be in environments, and I don't always like them. It's uncomfortable, but I need it because I want to be a free man. And I'm constantly dealing with a lot of darkness in me.
Yeah.
And so I got to get it out in a safe place where I won't be judged. That's why people hate the church, right? And I get it. I get it because it's like the church is not safe. Everybody there is playing a game to look good. And we know that we look good, but no one really is good. And so no truth is being told. And so there's just a lot of posturing. The problem with posturing is it doesn't work. It gets tiring, or in order to facilitate that posture, I need to drink a lot or porn a lot or make a lot of money a lot or do whatever to deal with my posturing.
To hold that up. Mm-hmm. And it's just a house of cards that's going to get
a house of cards.
Blown over. Yeah. Well, that, painted baby, everybody paints pictures of perfection and it prevents true connection. Everybody's the shiny marketing brochure version of themselves. And now you've got social media.
Social media.
Like, come on. Like my life's not that. Nobody's life is that. Nobody's breakfast is that perfect that you snap the photo of with the filters. No, right? It's like imagine a world where people shared that. Yeah. But you mentioned something, being in that safe place and environment where you can go, hey, I got something going on. And the other guys are like, yeah, we got you.
Right.
And then, yeah, me too.
Right.
Right. Because that leader goes first. They share that. And then not only does it not expose it, you have the grace and you get set free. But then that is contagious to and for other men. Yes. And then they do it too. And the power of that, the exponential power of that thing building. We have a men's mastermind. We meet once a month, Saturday morning, 6 to 10 a.m.
Wow.
It's because they're almost all faith-based guys, not all of them.
Wow.
But we just open up. There's no judgment. You say whatever you want, share your story, be real, be authentic, tons of coffee. We bring in a speaker. And we had a couple Saturdays ago, a guy joins first time and he's like, here's what I got going on. I said, we are not going to judge you. So bring it. Wow. And don't BS yourself because we'll call out if you're full of crap. If you say everything's good, you're like, I'm not okay. You're not okay. It's okay. And
right.
You wrote that in your form that you sent us. But Yeah, and then when you see one guy do that, it's just the power of just one person stepping into that. So for me, just realizing I'm not okay, reaching out to somebody else, and then they go, yeah, that happened. Oh, that happens? Because like I didn't know. I thought I was the only one that wasn't okay
Right.
for a long time, and everybody has it together. So then you feel even worse.
You feel worse.
And then you're in the Christian community, and like these 7 verses show how you're going to burn in hell, and then these 12 Christians tell you you're going to burn in hell. That's not what Jesus came here and said and did with
You're
the
on
people he hung out with.
You're on it.
So like cut the crap. Like, and that's why Foundations was so refreshing. So I walked in just from being in a different environment, and I walk in there the first time, I'm like, this is a different crowd. You know, like I hang out with a lot. I'm from New Jersey, man. I should be dead in prison. I should be dead in prison, disappeared. Like that's where my life was headed. And when I connect with those guys, half the guys in men's group were in prison. They were felons. They were, you know, just doing bad stuff. I love hanging out with those guys. And they'd get kicked out of most churches just walking in there. They'd call the security team just because of the way they looked. And these people are all over Foundations, just being loved on.
Yeah.
So that was super interesting. And then you know, you transitioning out, Grant coming in, you know, everybody's kind of watching the new guy, right? Like he's awesome. Yeah. Because he's being just as real, standing up there. Like he said something once ago, he'd get kicked out of like 4 churches for saying that. Because just real. He's just real. Just and then people are like, oh, he thinks that too as a pastor? Yeah. He said something in a sermon about, I've thought about how to get rid of and bury a body. He said that as you guys were still interviewing him, I think, or he had just come out like 3 sermons in, and I looked at Emily, I go, I like this. Because you've thought about it. Joey's thought about it.
He's thought about it.
I love that. No, thanks for sharing all of that. We could spend the rest of this time just serving, man.
So here's, can I say one thing, go back up a little bit?
Yeah.
So when Crossroads is going to hire me, I knew that, you know, I had that failure in Chicago. So I said, before you hire me, you're going to know everything about me, to the board. I think there's 6, 7 people in the room. I says, because if you hire me and you want me to speak here, you're going to put it online, and people in Chicago are going to see this, and there's going to be blowback. And I want to be sure that you have my back. I want to be sure. So I'm going to tell you everything. It's going to be a little graphic in here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to meet each of you one-on-one, and we're going to even go deeper, because some stuff is probably not appropriate to share in the context that we're in. So because I want you to know the worst thing. So anybody who calls you,
the ugliest version, furthest away from God, most hurt version of Carl Sutter that stood on this earth. Yes. You shared that with everybody.
Yeah, you need to know this, because there are people out there who I'm convinced are designed to take people down. And they don't even want the truth. They just want to see people suffer. They want to punish people. And so when you get that call from this punishing jerk, other words, but we won't say them now.
You can say it. You're not employed by the church anymore. Come on. You can say what you want. You don't have to. I got it. I think I know the word you're thinking.
Yeah, exactly. I think you do. So I want you to have my back. That's the power of a small community that's authentic. Because then we don't have, because every one of us make mistakes. Every one of us have skeletons in our closet. Every one of us, right? Yeah. And the higher you go in leadership, the more your behind gets exposed, right?
Yes.
And I'm convinced there are people that are designed to do nothing else but to take people down for no other purpose than the sheer joy of seeing someone fail.
It's because they're so miserable and they failed, and they know it's less energy. They spend so much energy trying to take people down, but it's still less energy than they would spend to work on their own miserable life.
That's profound, right there.
Stacy and I were just talking about there's people involved in local government that are just nasty, miserable people, and they attack great leaders because they're miserable people. And maybe you should stop being miserable and attacking people and go work on yourself.
Yeah.
And go back to that drawing board.
Absolutely.
Because I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. These leaders got enough stuff going on in their own life. So yeah, that's just crazy.
And what's crazy is that's why we have to be assured of our calling, because they fight really dirty, right? Mm-hmm. They won't even go after you because you're a intimidating jujitsu dude who would put them in a chokehold real quick.
I refrain from choking somebody like 3 times a week. I do.
But here's the thing. You're sophisticated enough. You've worked hard on yourself enough that I could probably throw anything at you. And this is a challenge of every leader of I think, not reacting, but responding. And I still have to work on that. And I think I've been sophisticated enough, you certainly are, that no matter what, anybody comes at you straightforward, you're going to be able to deflect it and not react. But you know what?
Yeah,
are you that when they come after your wife and kids?
Well, we just talked about that downstairs.
Yes.
Yeah. So when they come after me, whatever would come at me a decade ago, I just pop off. I just fight. I just fight you.
Really?
I had like 6 jiu-jitsu classes. Now I get to fight everybody because that's where I was. So now, it depends. Like there's certain things you can say about me where I just realize you're a knucklehead. You're miserable, and that's fine. There's little things that will hit me harder. I do the best job I've ever done at just letting that sit. But I'll still, like, people will see me here. The people closest to me, Emily I'll come home and the stuff that comes out of my mouth just after a day I've been through, she hears it, but I don't let that come out. Right. And I have an amazing team here. So like Stacy, who's sitting over there, even Joey, Kevin, everybody that's here, they know when a situation, a person, a comment comes in, they'll get in front of that too. And that's what's really cool about leadership is when you are that exposed and real just of who you are with your people. And they see, like, Kevin goes, oh, I know that's going to piss Matt off, so I'm just going to get in front of that. But yeah, there's just a certain thing as well, just in the space I'm in. If you attack, like you attack my wife or children in a physical way, like not having a conversation with you, like that'll be over really fast. Yeah, we've had that happen.
Wow.
Like we've had that happen. Haley and I got attacked in Spain at a taxi stand, and that was over very fast for the person that attacked us. And we went home safe and good. We got ice cream after. We did. But no, that does it cuts deeper, and these dirty players know how to play dirty.
And so this is what I want to say, right?
Yeah.
Because you alluded to a little. You and I didn't talk about it, but in depth. But they go after kids, they go after wives, they go after everything. And I talked to a prominent man one time in town. I went to one of these political meetings in town, and it was just it was a waste of time. I got out of there angry. It's like, oh my gosh, it's not rational. It's not. So I pulled this guy aside, a businessman who I really, really like and respect, prominent. And I says, you know what? Loveland needs strong leadership. Leaders would get behind you. Leaders would get behind you. And we had a great conversation. And then he looked at me, and he's a strong man, and he just looked, but I saw something in his eyes, like, what's up? He goes, I'll never do that. And I go, why? Mm-hmm. And he says, because of my family. So he's prominent enough that his family has already gotten attacked.
Yeah.
Right? And he's protecting his family. So I get that. And so I went home and I thought about that. And I don't know, Matt, I don't know the answers. Maybe you do. But you've heard the quote, all it takes for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Mm-hmm. If they can intimidate enough good people to stay on the sidelines, we're all in a boatload of trouble.
Yeah, because then the weak ones, they'll just steamroll over and there'll be nothing protecting. It's, the sheepdogs and these wolves are just coming to smash and kill the sheep.
So we got to be clear about our calling. We got to make sure the people in our lives are clear about our calling, because it seems to me, I'm not a prophet, but the heat is getting turned up more and more in our culture.
It is. Yeah. It's getting louder. And then just the social media allows, you said at the very beginning, anything that people can find out about you that's the story can be instantly pushed on social media. But I'd still say 80% of that stuff that can instantly be pushed and put out about a person on social media isn't even true. And then people believe it. So it's like you could say, I could go post, hey, Carl Sutter
is
whatever, and people go, oh yeah, and they get behind it, and it spreads like wildfire, and you don't even realize. So somebody was passing this around. I think I actually passed it around. There was apparently 2 people in Greeley driving around robbing people or doing something terrible and miserable, and watch out for these people, and everybody was sharing it, right? Go, man, I should share that too. Because if that's true, because I assumed it's true. So I shared it. And then somebody was like, you idiot, Matt, you don't share those. That's a clickbait thing. And this never happened. These aren't real people. But just how much do we believe
how much we get
whatever gets put in front of us is true? Wow. And then we share it. Like we share it, we speak it. But yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, the politics for me, it is a balance, right? You're called to something, to step into something. And then you're saying the leader says, yeah, but my family. So I think there's a protective element because we're called to protect our family. But then there's also a faith that if you're really called to that, I'm not called to city of Loveland politics, not right now. Because we were talking about that downstairs. Talked about some of these people. They don't want me in there. I would come in there. I get to be HOA president right now, and there was all kinds of nonsense. I can't even clear that up because I told them 2 years before the nonsense. I said, you guys keep talking and behaving like this to each other, we're all going to have a really expensive lawsuit. So why don't we have coffee out here, knock that off, and talk like grown-ups? And they didn't want to listen. And then 2 years later, $200,000 legit lawsuit. Everybody's mad. And I said, told you. Like, I've seen this happen before. So now I get to do that. Just nonsense. Like people not behaving like competent, rational adults.
Yeah.
Have different views. If you think this is your truth, okay, great. Let's find a common ground. Love each other as people. But don't start with all the attacking.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I struggle with that. I do consider that protective element of protecting your family, knowing that whatever you step into as a leader, public figure, they're going to get brought into it. And that's an interesting balance.
Yeah, for sure.
So how did you do that? Because being a leader of the church here, just in Loveland, and I think when you get into politics, all gloves come off. It gets really nasty. And there's that because it's like if you want to fight, let's fight. But politics was the worst, right? In your experience with the leaders you've met with, would you say politics is the dirtiest, nastiest?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you want to play in, you want to fight in that cage.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just as leader, when you were leader of a church, I mean, how is that space as a pastor in the city of Loveland? I mean, is that mostly positive?
Well, yeah, there is. And there's some negativity with it. I think every leader faces it, you know? For me, I was aware of it, so that was good. I have friends that I decompress with, like you say, you go home and your wife here. You know, I need to decompress. Every time someone comes to me and says, you know, let me tell you why I don't go to church, and I says, okay, that'd be interesting to hear, and they tell me, I say, I've seen that, and I totally get it. Like everybody who tells me why they left the church, they're legitimate reasons, right? So I talk a lot about this with my family. I say, look, when Jesus tells a story of the wheat and tares growing together, the nastiest people in many ways sometimes can be church attenders.
Correct.
You got that?
Yeah.
But I also tell my boys, the best people that I've seen are in the church too. They're both true.
They're both there at the same time.
Absolutely.
And is it such a dichotomy that it's either one or the other? Is there just the mid-range, there's
mid-range too.
But is it a lot? Is it just in your experience, not that you'd necessarily measure it, but like hip shooting, gut feel, do you feel like the ones equal 5% sides, just the great and the not great are about equal, then you have a lot in the middle?
I think so. I probably am a little biased. I think there's probably a little more better people. But someone told me when I went in the ministry, you know, whenever you turn on a light, you attract a lot of bugs. And I just want people to be aware of that. And my sons have run into it. Like, well, this person betrayed me. I said, you don't know when you go in the church. I wish they had a sign like, here's the wheat, here's the tares. You know, you don't know. And you could be seduced. Someone can be a wolf in sheep's clothing. But I don't want it. Like, I think if you ask my boys, they're both in college right now, I think you ask my boys, like, wow, you were a preacher's kid. Because I had someone ask me. I think they would say, by and large, that was a positive experience for them. My girls, they would say no. That my girls are totally, they have a real jaundiced view of the church. And so I talked to them about that, work with them. Church and faith are different.
Because of the experience of the failure in Chicago?
Of watching their dad get crucified.
Okay. Yeah. You think that's just naturally harder for a female than a male, or was it maybe just your family dynamics?
Probably. I think, I don't know. It's a good question. I think anybody who sees their dad get crucified is not going to be too happy about that.
They're going to respond one way. Right. Okay. Yeah. If you're a Christian business owner in Northern Colorado, check out one of our sponsors, the Foundry Advisory. The Foundry is a Christian peer-to-peer advisory network where you can plug in as a business owner, not only to talk about how to improve your business, but how to integrate your faith. Check them out at thefoundryadvisory.com. And remember, they're not only a sponsor, but I'm also a member of their group. If you have a story to share and you're thinking of becoming an author to do so, you have to connect with one of our sponsors, Scribe Media. I worked with Scribe to publish Painted Baby, and I'm currently working with them again to publish my next book, Pour Into People. Click on the link in the show notes below to connect with them, and they'll actually give you a little something extra because you came to them through me. But then when you find the wheat and the tare, the two different dichotomies coexisting together in the church, it's like even under biblical truth, you have 500 members. It's 500 different truths because everybody lives their own story. And I see that too. It's like I'm living my own truth. Like we interpret it, we hear it in English, translated from whatever original text, and then we have our story and all of our layers, and we say, this means I interpret this, and I'm going to live this way, and this is my true north. And it is not the true north of the guy sitting right next to you,
right,
but it's both their truths.
Yes.
And then I think you do have those wolves that it's like, that's nobody's truth, and you're just totally a wolf, and we're gonna put you out of here at a certain point. But then
how do you know all that?
It's just that there's so much of that. How do you as a pastor, and you are preaching and sharing the word of God through your story and lens. So everybody has a lens.
Yes.
So it's just interesting. But there's obviously a truth.
Yes.
You also just have this human existence of perception. And that's got to be interesting. You've had some interesting, what's been your funniest, I'm curious, what's been your most interesting engagements with people? Not necessarily naming names, but your most joyous or your funniest, your most engagement as a pastor with people?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stories. I mean, the latest one is, my boys go to Liberty University in Virginia, right? And it's a great institution, and I've really seen a lot of growth. And one morning I was just praying, and I just said, God, thank you, that the boys have the opportunity to go, that we my wife works, we have the opportunity just to get them to Liberty. That's really great. And I never hear an audible voice from God, but God says, it's not about you, not about you. I go, what do you mean by that? And it's like, I don't hear this voice, but it's almost like, yeah, your boys are going, but what about someone who can't and who isn't in your position? I go, well, what about him? Why are you talking to me? I'm trying to pay my boys' bills. What do you? He says, and then he brought this young lady who goes to our church, who comes from just a tough situation and sweet spirit, and God says she needs to go to Liberty. I go like, okay, well, I know some rich people. Maybe you misdialed today. Here, talk to them.
Hey, you call the rich guy over there. Yeah, I'll send you his number.
Yeah, exactly. So I got up and the boys got up. I get up in the morning, and the boys got up that morning, and I just says, hey guys, today I was praying, and God said, this woman, this gal that they're in a youth group together, she should go to Liberty too. They go, what? I go, I just want you to know what God, because I want my boys to think that God's big, right? So I just threw it out there. And I talked to one guy, talked to two guys, talked to three guys, and she's at Liberty University now.
Yeah.
These guys, I just said, here's what happened to my prayer life. I didn't even ask them for things. Yeah. All of them just said, how much you want me to write the check for, right? And every time I think of this gal being at Liberty, I get very emotional. She shouldn't be, she is, and she's growing like a weed. The church, what you do for waiters and waitresses, that's supernatural. People need to know about that. I told my boys, when you sent me that email to come to that, you know what I'm talking about, the breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I told my boys about this. This is what happened. I had a previous comment, but I says, this is what people in the world are doing. And we need to shine a light on that. We hear all about the crazy, negative, crazy stuff. But within faith-based people, God is doing this building right here, by the way. And I'm not just saying, because I didn't know. I just showed up and I had to ring the bell to get in.
You didn't know what I did 3 weeks ago.
No,
You're like, what do you do?
I don't even know.
What do you do?
I
You
don't
saw
even
you at the
know.
fights? I saw you at the fights.
Yes, at the
see you at
fights.
church. You're like, what do you do? You drink coffee all day? He didn't know, Joey. Like 3 weeks ago, he had no idea what we did here.
And so I didn't. And so I come to this, like, I don't know what you call it, a warehouse or something. I can't even get in the building. I looked up my address. I have the right address here. And I come in, and I'm not just saying it because you're here. I get emotional. This is a miraculous space right here because of what you're doing with it.
Thank you.
And you don't have to, I mean, you have to run your business because you have to pay your bills and feed your family. But you're doing a lot of other stuff, books, that are giveaways to help people. Yeah. And I want my boys, I want faith-based people to see that. Yeah. Matt's a good guy, but he's not that good. This is the Spirit of God moving through a guy who I don't totally know your story, but evidently had some woundness and brokenness. I read a little blurb about you because I want to find out more. Right in the lobby there, you were 6 digits. At one time, you were 6 digits in debt.
Yeah, we had nothing.
And I just read it. I just read it a half hour. I go, how does a guy? I want to know your story because it inspires me when I walked in here, Matt. How could you be 6 digits in debt? How can you? And have this today?
I'll tell you how I got there.
That's the story of God. That's the God story.
You know, it was interesting because, like, I know exactly how I got there was spending 6 digits more than I made and had. But then what happens was, you know, the early story of Matt was I turned it around. I did it because I know the marketing. I did the sales and I built the business and it was all about me. And I'm a believer at that point. Mm-hmm. You know, I found Jesus in the back of a police car. I was almost dead and passed out dead in the field in Fort Collins, and we'll come back to that. But when I started M&E Painting in 2005, I'm a Jesus follower. And then when I started speaking, I told everybody about how I did it and I dug out of that hole. God wasn't in that conversation because he was compartmentalized.
So what
here.
changed?
We go to church because you go to church on Sunday and you be a good Christian here, but you don't talk about it in the business space because of the world. You don't do that right? You just don't do that because I thought it was me, and that's where I was in my journey. Like I had didn't ever touch cocaine again. Only did that a couple of times. Like the things that almost killed me in the field, like those are done. I'm not doing those. God redeemed me from that. But the anger, I've got this. Things were so out of control that I take control and I handle situations. So I handled this situation. But that wasn't me. That was God. But I think what's interesting as a leader is I now, you know, then this building, this was a huge thing. I mean, this was not me that did this.
Well,
I worked. The team was here. I didn't sit on my hands and eat Cheetos and wait for Jesus to come because I can't stand that either. When people aren't doing, there's a balance there. We worked. Yes. This wasn't me. And then what we're investing in now, it's like make it so big, make the gap that needs to be spread so huge that anybody looking at it, believer, non-believer, knows that that's not you.
That's cool.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's where we're at right now.
That's what you got.
Yeah. And I think for me, I've always had, because of my just upbringing and story, you know, because I learned how to spend money really quick. I learned how to make money very easily and quick. That's just a gifting, right? Have that. So letting go of that's always like, I'd always be good till you see the money start getting a little shaky. And then you hold on and you grab control again. So that's been something that's been shedding, really been leaning into, praying about that. Just take that whole issue, program, pattern, you know, reliance on thinking that that's any kind of foundation. Like this could all burn down tomorrow. We're talking to Marcus about insurance. Marcus is a buddy of mine. He's like, what if this all burns down? I go, well, then we're not doing a podcast tomorrow, but it's just stuff. You don't get to take any of it with you. But no, thank you for coming in and being a part of this.
It's been a blessing. Yeah. Are you kidding? Yeah.
Yeah. And you're going to hang for coffee bar, talk to more people. Yeah. Got to have you into the men's group too. We're just going to get a seat. We're just going to get a desk for Carl. You just hang in. But no, anytime, coffee's always free. Always come back. Okay. And one thing though, I gotta share. So like Joey, I always think about you. You know, you grew up with some interesting people who claimed to follow Jesus, would you say? They called themselves Christians.
Yep.
What's your number one riff and beef with them? Because I know what mine were. I'm guessing you probably have a top three.
Yeah.
Right. But what's yours, Joey?
Narrow-mindedness, judgmental, holier than thou, self-righteous.
He's got a lot.
Lots.
But it's ringing all the bells, though,
Yeah,
right?
and they came out quickly, Joey. They came out quickly.
Now, Joey, was that for you? Was that like one person, general people? Was it a lot of people? Was it
Several. Yeah.
Several people.
Several.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my parents, they were a part of a church in California, and it was like a different vibe. Like they would cover like Aerosmith songs and just kind of, it was just different out there. And then we moved to small town Colorado. Ooh. And things vastly changed.
No Aerosmith at the church and
nah,
where you were. There's no Aerosmith playing up there.
In Canyon City,
No.
Colorado.
What were they playing there? You're burning in hell music.
Yeah, fire and brimstone music.
So then at that point, you're just like, screw it. I don't want to hang with you guys.
Yeah, it kind of it got to that point. Yeah,
Yeah. No, and that's where I was too. I remember the first I got invited to a youth group. Like again, like I'm from New Jersey. The stuff that I experienced and witnessed and participated in leading up to fourth grade, my kids will never see in their life. Like the stuff that I saw back in Jersey. Then I come out here. And that's just normal. So like we get the police called on us. We're like, people like to call the police out here. They're like, well, maybe you're doing things that the police should be called. So like, maybe not. I don't know. It was probably a little bit of both, but just stepping into that space. And then, so I'd find those guys and gals to hang out with.
Yeah.
But then, just all these Christians telling me how wrong it was. And then they're like, come to youth group. I remember the first youth group I went to, we go, and this is funny. This is my first experience. The way they broke the ice was they got all the kids together and I'm in middle school, right? So how great is middle school? How handsome am I? How confident and handsome and developed and wise and everything is anybody in middle school, right? So you throw a bunch of them together in a local church here, and the guy comes and he goes, all right, I got a question. Are you a buncher or a folder? So if you're a buncher, go over here. If you're a folder, go over here. You know what?
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, how do you use your toilet paper? You want to know how I wipe my butt? And you guys are already weird. So you're already weird. I'm in middle school. I should be in prison. Like, I probably just shoplifted something, whatever, right? Stole a nudie magazine, like whatever it was. And I'm like, I'm standing right here because you guys are weird. So I stood there. They all go sit at here's the buncher table here. And most went to the bunching table because that's the correct way to do it.
We don't need to know all this.
It's the correct way to do it. And I'm standing there like, what the heck's going on? And they're like, well, if you don't want to decide, then I guess you just can't be part of our youth group. So I'm like, there you go. Judgment. Right. And then just seeing that. And then it's like by the time I get to CSU and there's the guy on the Bible box right outside the library standing up on the box, we're all burning in hell. Like, you guys are wackadoodles. Yeah. And I got, I wouldn't say saved, but I turned drugs and alcohol and chasing women and hanging out, and I'm partying every weekend, and I'm working with the college painters. That's how I got into painting. And dude, you go make a bunch of money working with those guys. And this wasn't the company as a whole, but the gang I ran around with that was working for the company. It was like, make a bunch of money. Let's go to Vegas and do all the drugs till we run out and pass out.
Really?
Yeah. And then it was like every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. I'm just getting wrecked while I'm pulling a 4.0, while I'm making tons of money. Cause I do, right? Cause I got this. And I'm just doing my thing. And then it's New Year's Eve from 2000 to 2001. And I had been going to Crossroads, checking that out.
Wow.
Like me and a roommate.
Yeah.
So I'm living with a gal. We're friends. Her dad was my baseball coach, like when I was like 10 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So anyway, we're partying, we're doing all this, and then we're both going through, let's go check out this church down at the old Loveland High. It's at your old high school. We're Indians. Let's go down. So I'm like, but I don't know. Like, John sounds cool. These guys are weird. Let's go do drugs. So I'm leaving a house party one night, freezing cold, 1:30 in the morning. I don't remember what I did. It was drugs, and it was all kinds of stuff. And I'm freezing cold. The cops come break up a party, so I've got to run home. And I generally know where I live, so I just start running and then slowing down and then walking, and I'm freezing. Like, I'm starting to get frostbite. It's that cold, and I'm wrecked. And I get to this front yard of this house, and there's a fence there. And I'm like, I thought this street went through. I'll just climb the fence. And I'm trying to climb a fence. It's probably this high. I can't get over the fence. So then I'm fighting the fence. I'm like, F you. And I don't know jiu-jitsu yet, or I would have just smoothly grappled my way over it. I'm like punching and cursing at a fence, and a Ford Astro van, a brown, like 90s Astro van, pulls up with a dude and his wife and like 2 babies in car seats back there. And he pulls up, and I know it's an Astro van because he grabs me and slams me around on the hood. He said, Fort Collins police. He puts me in handcuffs.
Oh my God.
Like, you're not the police. Like, there's a baby in him. Like, this isn't a police car. He goes, oh, I'm the police, and you're in handcuffs. So then they pass me off to an on-duty Fort Collins police officer. They put me in the car, like the cold, hard seat, and I'm getting ready to throw up. Now, so long story short is this cop pulls up, and he does the police thing. I'm the boss. I'm in control. He's giving me the police talk, reading me the riot act. And he's like, you want to go to detox or you want to go home? How about you tell me where you live and then I'll take you home. And I just happen to know where I lived. And I told him. So he starts driving me home, but he's just coming down on me. So I'm like, here's another person to come down on me, right, in my life. Like, just take me home. And then every bump, I'm like, I think I'm going to throw up in your car. He's like, if you throw up, you're going to detox and you're staying there. And all of a sudden, his demeanor changes. I don't know what it was or when it was. And I don't remember even how I remember this because I was so wasted. Like, I don't remember certain things, but I remember this very vividly. He just, we pull up to a light. I'm almost back to the house. And he's like, what's your story? Why are you wasted and passed out and about to puke in my car? Like, what's your story? Why are you doing this? And he asked me that. Like, well, I don't know, turn left here. So he pulls me up, gets me out of the car, takes me out of the handcuffs. Like, he's not taking me to detox. He had the power, the control, the authority
to do all
of that. Right. and I don't realize what's going on. I don't even realize it's till decades later, Carl. So he uncuffs me and he's like, hey man, I just want to apologize. Like, my job is to enforce the law. And I'm sorry that I came down on you. I worked previously before working here in Fort Collins in a big metro city. And I remember picking up a kid like you that was just as wasted as you. And in taking him to detox, we took him to detox, and then he ended up dying there because he had ingested so much of whatever he did. He's like, that just reminded me of you. So he didn't quote a Bible verse, dude. He didn't claim to be a Jesus follower. I don't know if he was. I don't know who he was. I've tried to go back and find out. He just showed me some love and some compassion some kindness just in the way and in the moment I needed to see it. And then took me home. Then I went home and threw up everywhere. And woke up the next day, but that was January 1st, 2001. And then I read 2 books. I read Lee Strobel's Case for Faith, Case for Christ, because I'm like, something just happened here. And I need to prove that this is all fake, that this is all BS, all this Christian Jesus nonsense. And a friend's like, oh, you should read Lee Strobel's book because he went out to do that too. Because he did.
Yeah,
right?
he did, right.
They didn't tell me what he discovered. Yeah. So I read those books. And then I'm like, okay, now I decided. So yeah, it was January 14th, 2001 in the Loveland High School gymnasium at Crossroads.
That's an amazing
was where
story.
I officially turned my life over to Christ that day. I was actually baptized later.
Yeah.
Standing next to my baseball coach, whose daughter I was roommates with, and we're going through that same journey. So crazy how that all comes together. That's my story. Yeah.
That's to let you up to the starting line to this, what you have here.
Yeah.
So that's the pre-story that got you to the starting line.
To the starting line.
And from the starting line, and the journey continues.
Yeah, and here we are.
Having
coffee. Well, I'm having coffee.
Unbelievable.
You got to try some of the coffee before you go, man. Well, hey, we had some great time. We got to have you back. We do this again.
I enjoyed it more than you. So
that's awesome, man. And thank you for the book that you brought. Tell me about that book real quick before we go.
My gosh,
that looked like a great book.
It's fabulous, and it's written. It's easy to read, but unoffendable is the title, and it's the goal. I mean, everybody today gets offended at everything. Everything. You can't have a discussion virtually about anything and someone gets offended.
This is kind of offensive that you're talking about. It's true.
True, authentic leaders need to be, what the word is, differentiated. That is to say that I am who I am, and I need to be comfortable and convicted about who I am and stand in my space. Yep. And if I know I can stand in my space, you and I can talk about anything. That's just you. And if the more differentiated I am, the more power I give to people to be whatever they want to be. And it doesn't it doesn't affect me because I know who I am. And so it takes a lot of work to be unoffendable because we have residual anger, hurt, brokenness. So it takes some soul work. But the most free, I'm not there, but the most freeing place we could be is live in a space. You could do whatever you want. And Jesus, by the way, in my opinion, was the most differentiated person there was. He could be around anybody. I should be able to be around an alcoholic, a Buddhist, a Hindu, a Democrat, a Republican, jiu-jitsu guy, anybody, and just say, hey, I'm giving you space to be you, and it's okay to be you. So it's a powerful, powerful way to live. I'm trying to get there.
I got something to throw into this one.
Oh, hey.
I read it in a book really recently. It says people get addicted to feeling offended all the time because it gives them a high. Being self-righteous and morally superior feels good. Outrage is like a lot of other things that feel good, but over time devour us from the inside out.
That's better than me. He should be.
He's come on. He's good. Doesn't he have? He sounds like the audible voice.
He's got
of God.
the voice.
He has that like Morgan Freeman.
What book is that from?
Books.
What book is that from?
It's from The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F.
Oh, that one.
Oh, that book.
Mark
Yeah,
Manson.
I've read that book.
It's a fantastic book.
It is a great book.
But those who get offended, or when I get offended, that just displays a lack of confidence in who I am. And like when you judge somebody else, like, cool, he's being him. I just did a little video. I do little morning coffee videos, and I'm like, God designed you a specific way, the way you look, act, walk, talk. None of it was an accident. Lean into that, own that, understand who he called you to serve.
Own it.
And go be that. And if somebody doesn't like it, turn off your station. There's a lot of other stations. Like, you don't need to like it. I'm not for everybody. You're not for everybody. Joey's not for everybody. And we just try to be everything for everybody, and then we're nothing to nobody. and then we're missing the point. We're missing the point of who we're, like, you're clearly called to serve who you're called to serve. So we'll do that.
So here's my last word.
Love it.
The Hebrew word in the Bible for glory, like, God's glory when you see God, or when he's, is wait. Wait. God's created you, Matt, to bring his glory to the world. And when the world feels Matt's weight, that's when Matt is in his glory and God gets glorified. When you hold your weight back, the world loses. So, Matt, here's what I want to say to you. Thank you for having me. You are really pushing your weight around in Loveland and beyond, and we're a better place because of it. So keep being weighty.
Thank you.
To the glory of God.
Stacy said I was weighty when she started working here, and then I lost a little. I'm going to lose a little bit of this weight so I can live longer to display that weight.
To weigh that weight. I like that.
I like
That's
it. Hey,
good.
You got to share your statement that you would like to leave with the world when you leave it, because that's how we wrap up every show.
I didn't know that. Okay,
yeah. So you can't miss that.
This is when a peasant girl from a poor family was told that the Savior of the world was going to reside in her womb. Teenager Mary had nothing. And how can that be, she said, when she was told the message from the... How can that... I'm nobody. This is the default, I think, that all of us go... No, God can't. Like when you're showing me to say, the immediate default in me as you're giving me a tour, is like, I could never do this, right? That's our default. We can't do it. Mary's default is, I can't do it. How can I house the Savior of the world? That's way too much pressure. And the angel said, with God, all things are possible. No matter how dirty, messy, crazy, how many times we've messed up, how many times we've screwed up, no matter what, The world, God is calling us to feel our weight. And we will have a million excuses why it shouldn't be us. But the message we need people, and I need to embrace, and everyone does, is with God, all things are possible.
Carl Sutter, that's a wrap. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Great being with you.
Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, drop a comment below. Make sure to watch the next episode, and don't forget to subscribe. If you're a business owner looking to improve your life, leadership, faith, family, and business, I've got a couple of free things that I'd love to share with you. So go to mattshoup.com and download my free tools. I guarantee these couple of things will get you started off in the right direction.